gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
Ladies and gents, we're talking about the man himself, Chief Creative Officer, Quesada himself. All right? From Marvel, the man who's helped to bring these new visions of some of the greatest new comics out here. Has he continued to hold the pale to some of the great ones?
No.
Stan Lee, Jim Shooter. Tell me, guys.
Stan Lee and Jim Shooter.
As an editor-in-chief.
When he was editor-in-chief, yeah.
No.
So, no. Gentlemen.
Come on.
PD, Cal, can we talk about this reasonably? Let's not let emotion get into it.
The greatest run in the history of Marvel Comics. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four 1 through 100. That's the greatest run in the history of Marvel Comics.
We're talking about we're talking about the entire thing.
While Stan Lee was doing that,
the entire
he was still editor-in-chief, okay? Quesada, all right. Originally, I liked some of the stuff I saw from Quesada when they were doing the Marvel Knights line, and they decided they were going to reinvigorate Daredevil. He brought on Kevin Smith, and while, looking back on it, it's not necessarily the greatest thing, it was a good palette change at the time because they were just beating Daredevil all over the place.
Well,
that led to
it was him in the armor, right? Wasn't it him in the armor?
He was in armor, and then they took him out of the armor. Then he was in the older suit. They just didn't really know what to do with him because they couldn't. Miller had pretty much told the last story, and a lot of the people didn't know where to go further. The last good writer on the series was D.G. Chichester, who really was, he was immersing himself in the character and trying to really go somewhere with it. But, they were really just running aground at this point, and they were thinking of canceling Daredevil. I'm a very big Daredevil fan. So when they came on, they did Marvel Knights. Not only did they do Daredevil, but they also did Black Panther at that point. And that's where you get Christopher Priest. They were really trying their best they wanted to throw some new talent, not new talent necessarily, but some new looks at this. In both cases, in Priest's case, Black Panther ran much longer than expected. We did the interview with Priest and I love saying where he said, hey, he did the 12 issues and he went about his business, only to find out later, they're like, hey, where's issue 13? He was like, we're not canceled? So his tenure was seminal to what the Black Panther is today. Had he not done that, more than likely we wouldn't see the Black Panther where he is. With Daredevil, however, and this is my main bone of contention with Quesada, he betrayed the origins and the roots of the character for this ideological bent that he has. He brought Brian Michael Bendis on, not because Bendis is necessarily this great writer for Daredevil. He wasn't about placing the right writer with the character. He was more about placing a writer that he knew would have some following. Okay, he was going to give him a whole bunch of room to tell whatever story, and his audience, okay, was going to come over here, buy this up, and then of course we can change stuff. He ruined Daredevil. Okay, he ruined Daredevil to the point that I, who have been reading Daredevil for the longest period of time, could no longer read that book. His that same ideologue.
But I think we're talking about the overall.
Hold on. That same ideology. Okay, that's what he is.
We don't have enough for this.
That same ideology of him being an ideologue spread over to Spider-Man. Okay, it spread over to the Avengers. It spread over to Thor, to the point you had books being canceled because they were all being disassembled simply because, he decided, hey, Bendis guy is not necessarily doing the right thing by these characters, but he's selling. He has decided that everything needs to be shaken up to the point that it never comes back down, it never settles, and there's no true storytelling. The reason why he's still there? Because he's making the guys money, but he's making horrible books.
All right. So
do you have another perspective other than this pylon that?
I'm not disagreeing. I would just add that Quesada, as you said, came on the Marvel Knights, and you also have to imagine that it would be sort of Jim Lee in that seat had he not decided to not sell his company to Marvel, because they basically had the same deal, same amount of success, even though critically Heroes Reborn was, ridiculed. It sold like, hotcakes. So, I think Marvel Knights, Daredevil sold. I don't think the other one sold as much, but then they had a couple other crossovers.
It was
that sold.
Daredevil, Black Panther, Inhumans, and the Punisher.
Inhumans
Daredevil
sold,
sold very well. Inhumans was critically acclaimed, not so much in terms of sales. Punisher was panned, and Black Panther stayed alive.
Yeah. So then I would say that when that deal, they gave him the keys to Marvel because they were looking for the next hot creator and
A savior.
I'm going to get to that. But he's like, they wanted someone like that, and they wanted a creator to sort of say to the audience that we are, this is this is the next wave of Marvel stuff. Because right before him, Bob Harris was trying to bring back the old. So he had Heroes Return, had Kurt Busiek, had Byrne on a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of stuff about Captain America with Mark Waid. So what Quesada came in and did was like, let's grab all of the Vertigo guys. Let's get Grant Morrison. Let's get all these guys and not have Grant Morrison do JLA. Do like your Vertigo, your Invisible stuff. Do that stuff. And that's the thing that sort of pushed them into saying that Marvel was the next thing. And they also made up all those fake phony beefs with DC.
Yeah.
And calling them AOL Comics and all that stuff. But that was the main push that they did. And the other thing is that what's that thing? The Ultimate Spider-Man?
Yeah.
But Ultimate X-Men was selling. Ultimate Spider-Man wasn't, but he made it sort of collector's item because it wasn't selling as much as they was expecting. So he basically, did the whole lessen the print run. The whole interest was up, and the next thing was like, no, this book costs X amount of dollars now. It's like, oh, then people started buying, and Bendis' name grew, and then they gave the whole Marvel line to it. So I think the hard thing is that he broke so much stuff and changed so much stuff, like revealing Spider-Man's identity, having Bendis and Mark
Get rid of the marriage.
Yeah, like there's so much stuff that they did it was detrimental, but it was successful to some extent. Where it was like, and they were also bringing back all those variant covers and all that stuff, which fuels the industry right now. So that's the harder thing, is that there's so much of those variant covers that people sell for $10, which is like post. He said, hey, collect it,
Yeah, for $200 graded.
So look, gentlemen, this is the thing. I mean, we're running out of time here, but I think clearly you guys were not looking at our Quesada NYCC video that he had. And as you can see, he explained a lot of this.
Oh, good Lord.
He explained that, when he got to Marvel, basically, it was at a very tough point. They didn't even have. They did not even.
Everybody
have
says the
They
same
didn't even
thing.
have a marketing.
Sounds
budget.
like Donald
And
Trump.
he
It was
had
a mess when I got it. A
And
mess.
so
Everybody
he had
says
to
the
do
same thing.
as much things as possible to shake things up with as little money as possible that they could do. And we have to give. Without him, he made it seem as though Marvel
He
probably
made
would
it seem
made it
as
seem an
though.
interview would have been to into the toilet.
That's
But-
the
but-
same
but hold on,
rhetoric.
but I'm
It's the
saying-
same rhetoric everybody says when they get in the chair. It's a
But-
mess when I get it. It's
Of
always
course
a
it's
mess.
But I'm just saying the point is that the sales were not as strong as they once were. The market had dropped when he
All
took
right,
over.
I'm
You
gonna
know
say,
that.
I want to say it like
You know what
this.
I'm trying to say?
The one thing he did do, which is sorry to say, was that the main X-Men title was in the complete toilet with Chris Claremont. He got back on the book, and it was absolutely terrible. And then they got, which I don't like the stories, but they got Grant Morrison. The book became, even though I think they had, who's that guy? Joe Casey on the other title, and
Okay.
that wasn't really working. But they got it needed the hot hand on the book. The stories are really wacky, but he needed the hot hand. And
Yeah.
that's what he did, and he did that, and he brought all the writers so everyone can go and say, I'm going to buy X-Force, the funky X-Force that came out, all those weird things that they were doing. There's a ton of stuff that you can't, or even what's the name? J. Michael Straczynski bringing in the Spider-Man. And as that went along, even though the stories weren't, but all that.
They brought more people to, and that's
and,
a good thing.
and bringing in all the writers,
Exactly.
like people, and changing the whole comic industry from going plot, art, script to going back to full script, which is, I think, for most comic artists, is super plot. Whereas like some of these guys don't really think visually, but they write a lot, so we'll just sort of, you can work with this. So that's sort of his impact, and I think over time, it hasn't helped the industry. It did bring money to Marvel. It did help them, and then some of the stuff they sold to the Ultimates, got connected immediately to the movies. So it's like, oh, okay. So you can see that stuff, but I think it's detrimental. I think it was detrimental in the end.
So once again, we are at an impasse.
No,
you have to
no,
say?
no,
What
it's
do you have to
2-1.
say?
I said,
What do you have to say?
Watch the NYC interview video that we had, which was very enlightening. And once again, the man speaks for himself.
So you put out
As opposed
another
to-
resume.
As opposed to
Here we go.
as opposed
Here
to
we
the
go.
slander that we have.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
It
Quesada,
wasn't slander.
spin a rack out.
Yeah, truth hurts.